Do you ever come back home from work or school, a tough day, and then you decide to turn on the game and enjoy yourself for a couple of hours? Is that you truly? Get him, boys! He's addicted to gaming. It's time for some CBT to get you back to enjoying the real world, because that's what this is all about. All right, all jokes aside, I think if you're a real gamer and you're around my age, then you've probably at some point ever been accused of being addicted of gaming. But what is addiction to gaming really, if not just escapism? I wanted to check it out myself and find out a bit more about what video game addiction is. So here is what I found. So video game addiction is something that people have talked about for quite a while, as it is something that has come up in the last couple of years, and that my generation and the younger generations are more prone to get it. The World Health Organization did actually classify it as an addiction. It is something that it can be considered as an addiction, but then at what point do they look at the fact that it is an addiction? Well, for one part, I think video games, well, they do generate a lot of dopamine, which is logical. You have a lot of systems that need to create fun. Dopamine is all about getting that fun out there. We have achievements, we have level ups, getting new gear, this and that, like grinding for stuff, putting in work and then getting something out of it. That creates a sort of dopamine effect, and for some people that creates an addiction. I mean, it's logical that a game needs to create dopamine, but then we also have, for instance, season passes or loot boxes, which are way more predatory at that part, and they create a sort of, and that is actually how you classify it, a sort of hyper arousal, which is basically where you kind of just need to keep going and going and going to get that dopamine kick out of it. It's why a lot of things are addictive nowadays. But where does this addiction kind of differ from, let's say, for instance, social media? I think a lot of people my age are addicted to social media, or the ages before us, generations before us, a lot of them are addicted to TV. It's a sort of escapism. It's rather that on your screen than it is what's going on in your real life. And I think that's a huge part of what it is for a lot of people. A lot of people with anxiety or depression or any social issues they have in the real world, they want control, they want to have some sort of achievements in real life, and they do games and do certain things in games in order to have this sort of like, yes, I did it, and it's all what I wanted to do, and it's under my control. And I can personally talk about that because I've personally faced the same issues. I've actually had issues where I personally didn't enjoy my day-to-day life, and I decided that I would rather play games for hours than to go out and enjoy real life, go out with friends, go outside to play, stuff like that. I would rather sit inside and play games. Now, when we look at restrictions that can be put on this, well, there are multiple restrictions in the world right now. For instance, here in Belgium, and I think the Netherlands and France, we have a restriction on loot boxes. I cannot buy loot boxes in Rocket League, in CS, and in whatnot. And I think to a certain extent that is something very, very logical, because a lot of these games do also cater towards children, but do offer the ability to buy these loot boxes. And as we know, loot boxes are nothing more than just a scam and pretty much just gambling. So why are we promoting gambling to children in games like this? The problem that creates, of course, is when you put a ban on that, is where do you kind of draw the line? Because if you're drawing the line at games and banning that, then I think, logically speaking, and what I'm saying right now isn't benefiting myself because I like to do it, but like when we look at card games, I like Magic the Gathering a lot. I buy a lot of card packs. But when we look at like younger ages, Pokemon is purely made for children, or not necessarily only children, but like when you look at Pokemon trading card, like that is catered towards children. They know that children are going to buy this and they're going to want to find Charizard, and so they're going to keep buying packs until they get a Charizard. I think that there's like a real black and white situation on that side. There's no gray zone here. It's like either you block everything or you let everything happen. And in the same sense as it is with drinking, for instance, you can't just say like, okay, yeah, we're going to allow, like right now we're allowed to drink at a certain age, sure, but then there are people whose life have been ruined by drinking, same way that people's life have been ruined to gambling. But I'm getting away from the real subject here, which is about video game addiction, right? The way that addiction works. And I think personally, and apparently a lot of scientists also believe this, that there's actually only just a small percentage of gamers that are like really addicted. I know that I used to be one of them. I know that I used to be really addicted, but it was more because of a escapism, right? Trying to just be somewhere other than the real world, because the real world isn't nice, and that there are other issues like depression and anxiety that are in the way, and if you work on those issues, well, then automatically the addiction goes away. COVID was a very tough time for a lot of people, and you would constantly sit inside, and there were days where I wouldn't want to game. Or the rise of multiplayer games, for instance, right? When you look at what game went really viral in 2020, Among Us. It was a game about social deception, right? Just playing with a bunch of friends. It wasn't, oh, me and 2 or 3 friends. No, it was like 8 or 10 people that you would play with, trying to deceive each other, and it was amazing fun. And that was because everyone was inside and they wanted to socially interact. And it showed that the real world does want to interact. I mean, I doubt that many people who played those games and who still play games and whatnot don't just want to socially interact with people. Like, we all want to do that. Now, back to what I was saying right in the beginning with the CBT and my little skit I was doing there. Well, I had cognitive behavioral therapy. That was what I was talking about, which is actually a fancy word for saying just what are your thought patterns, what are you thinking about when you're playing games? Because it does end up, with people who are addicted, it does end up leading to certain things like lack of hygiene, lack of social contact. So people would rather stay inside and grind out their games like a World of Warcraft, spend hours playing Rust on their base and raiding other bases. Like, there are a bunch of situations where you actually know people who would just constantly sit inside, they won't socially interact, but then that's one part of the problem. But if you can replace it with, I guess, online social contact, that does kind of have a bit of a substitute. It's not as good, but it's a substitute. But then there's also just hygiene and food and whatnot. Like, you're gonna eat junk food because you don't want to actually spend money or time on a meal that's good for you. You're gonna not brush your teeth or shower because that means that you're gonna miss 15 minutes maybe of being able to play the game, and in the mind of an addict, that is too much time wasted. A normal person can understand, like, hey, like, I want a game, but I gotta take a shower. Like, I gotta brush my teeth before I even get started, right? Like, I gotta make sure my hygiene is good so I can take care of myself and feel good. But for these people, that's not the case. Do I believe that video game addiction is real and is an issue? Yes. But as the scientists kind of already said, there's only a real small percentage that are really addicted. I have had moments where I also would just spend a day or two non-stop playing a game, grinding it out because it was so fun. Hell, I've spent hundreds of hours on Rocket League because I just find it fun. I've spent hundreds of hours on CS. I've spent so many hours on gaming in general because I just really enjoy gaming because it's a hobby of mine. Would I sometimes rather listen to music or watch a TV show? Yeah. That's normal. That's pretty much just being able to entertain yourself. I think the older generations aren't as used to playing games, or at least a lot of them aren't, or not in the extent that we as a new generation do. I think that kind of scares them, thinking, oh shit, it's an addiction. I think the same can be said years ago about the TV. People thought, oh look, the TV's out there, they're gonna get addicted, don't get too close to the screen, don't let them watch for longer than this amount of time. And now look at everyone, now they'd rather you watch TV than play a game. People who don't know what gaming is about are probably rather going to be concerned about you. So if any of your family tells you, hey, maybe you should game a bit less, it's probably just mainly out of concern. Is it a problem? Well, if you're starting to act like Asmongold, living in your own little dead rat room, and wiping blood from your teeth on the walls, then I think it's time for you to step in a shower, clean up your room, and then maybe you can still play the game. Jesus Christ, at least people, take care of yourself. That was what I had to share about video game addiction. I looked it up, I had a bit of information to give you and my own 2 cents, but I would like to know what you think. So leave your opinion down in the comments below. Let's have a little chat about video game addiction. Have you had it? Do you think you're addicted right now? Just give me a little bit of your own opinion. Seems you've actually kind of liked my video, and if so, why not subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. Anyhow, I have said what I wanted to say. I have been addicted to gaming, but what I've not been addicted to is the new Black Ops 6, which I made a video about, claiming just exactly why in a month's time the video game is pretty much going to end up with very few players. So check it out, watch the video, and I'll see you there.